Wine Wayland is starting to mature, and today's video we are going to be looking at how to enable the Wine Wayland driver under a Proton runner with other different types of new environment variables that I have found when researching about some particular new Proton runners that are now available. Now, before this video starts, the Wine Wayland driver is experimental right now, so when it comes to issues and bugs, those are going to be present. So if you do go and use this, don't be surprised if you are met with issues when trying to use it. And in the future, this video will be marked as out of date because most of these environment variables and Proton runners that you'll have to use, you won't have to use these anymore. You should be able to just use normal Proton. It should be able to know what things like what your main monitor is, and you'll be able to just enjoy your games fully like Wayland native under Wine/Proton. The first thing you're probably wondering is what Proton runner should you use, because by default on normal Proton, when they compile it, they have the Wayland Wine driver disabled. So you're probably asking which one should you use. Well, you can grab an app called ProtonPlus. It's a pretty popular application for installing Proton runners really easily. And when we launch this, we are introduced with a lot of different Proton runners that you can use. And the three runners that we are going to be focusing on is GE-Proton or Proton GE, Proton cachyos, and Proton-EM. Now, the one that I would be mostly focusing on is using Proton-EM. Now, you're asking, what the hell is this run? I've never heard of this before. What does this run really bring to the table? Well, it brings a lot of the Wine Wayland tweaks and patches. It seems this runner is mostly focused on those types of tweaks and patches to try and make the experience better when it comes to using the Wine Wayland driver. And it does say here they do add FSR4 support, but I do know that other runners like cachyos and Proton GE also do offer those types of features. It's just that Proton-EM is a lot more quicker when it comes to releasing newer patches for either like some game issue you may have with Wine Wayland, or maybe some windowing issue or graphic issue with some type of application. Those types of fixes will probably be brought in a lot more quicker because they come through this developer who is maintaining this Proton runner, which is by Etash. And this person does work on a lot of different things when it comes to the graphics side of things, and it seems he does now maintain a Proton runner. So when it comes to, can you trust this Proton runner? Yes, you can, and it does get a lot of updates and patches for the Wine Wayland tweaks. But you can also use cachyos. When it comes to using Proton GE, this one is going to take a little bit longer because there's a lot more patches and stuff with other things that are happening in Proton that get brought over into this runner. So when it comes to the environment variables that I'm going to talk about, currently Proton GE is missing one of those environment variables, which is to decide where you want to launch the game on your monitors. So I recommend that you use Proton cachyos or Proton-EM. But in the future, Proton GE will probably get updated to support this environment variable, and this will be kind of like a little bit out of date where you can probably use Proton GE or the cachyos or the EM runner. Now, when I did find out the Proton-EM runner, I did open an issue about the main monitor problem that I was experiencing because my games were launching on my HDMI 60Hz 1080p monitor that I don't want to use as my main monitor for playing games. And I opened up the issue, and Etash replied and said, to look at the README, as I did not look at this, as I did not expect a README to be available when it comes to the environment variables. And as you can see, there is a lot of different Wayland environment variables that you can use, and an STL environment variable you can use to customize how you want, let's say, the game to launch, or if you want to enable Wayland or not, or things like HDR also. But of course, the main things that we are going to be focusing on is the Proton_use_Wayland equals 1 or Proton_enable_ Wayland equals 1. I'm going to use the enable one, as that's just the one I've been using for the past couple of months, as that's the one I heard from with GE-Proton. But one of the new environment variables that I did find out about was the primary monitor environment variable that you can use to tell the game or to tell Proton or the Wine Wayland driver of where you want that game to launch on your monitors, like if you have a multi-monitor setup. So what we can do here is the first thing we need to know is what are the names of our monitors. And it's really good because the names that are used under the Wine Wayland driver are the same names that you can tell to the Wine Wayland driver of the Xwayland monitor names. They're the exact same name. So you can tell the Wayland driver to launch on this monitor without having to use a different utility. So the utility that we're going to use is Xrender. It's a popular utility used for like Xwayland or X11 things. And we can just do Xrender space dash Q. And then when we do enter this, we can see a list of our monitors. Now, this is basically either a guessing game if you don't know the names of them, so you'll have to try the different names. But for me, it is the, I'm pretty sure it's the DP-3. So this is the part you want to copy. So if you have a HDMI monitor or whatever, it'll probably be HDMI-A-1 or -2 or something. But for me, I do have a display port for my monitor, so I'm going to copy this right here. And the example we're going to use today is Cyberpunk 2077, as it is a pretty damn good game to test when it comes to Wine Wayland. So as you can see, here is an example of these environment variables. There's the Wayland driver underscore primary underscore monitor equals, and this is all in like capitals, DP-1 and then space proton underscore enable underscore Wayland equals 1 and then space % command %, so that it actually gets executed. Everything has to be behind that command. And I did chuck in Mango HUD as well because it's just really nice to see the your metrics of what's happening in the game with the FPS, the GPU, or the CPU. So if we do launch Cyberpunk 2077 here, when it comes to the launcher and when it comes to the game, they should launch on the main monitor. So if I put my cursor over on my other monitor right now, that launcher and game will still launch on the main monitor, which is what we want it to do. And as we can see, the game has launched on the right monitor, which is what we are looking for. And if we do look on our system monitor here, and we search for Xwayland, and if we do use a utility like XLS clients, which tells you which windows are still running under X11/Xwayland, we can see that the only application that is running under Xwayland right now is Steam. So that's how we can tell that one way of telling if the application or game is running under Wayland or Xwayland or not. And of course, we are using the cachyos-proton runner with those environment variables. So if those are incorrect or something with the environment variables, the game would just close like instantly or just wouldn't even launch. But it did successfully launch. So that's another way of knowing if the environment variables are working and you're able to use the Wayland Wine driver. And of course, if you do want to use HDR, because you can do that natively with the Wine Wayland driver through, Proton or whatever, that is pretty easy to do. If we do hop out here and we go back to environment variables, there is a Proton underscore enable underscore HDR equals 1. So we just add that to the launch command of that game. So we go to general here, and then we just type Proton underscore enable underscore HDR equals 1. And that's it. You just relaunch the game, then you want to, of course, configure HDR on the Wayland desktop environment that you're using. And so for me, it's like KD Plasma. So I just go to my settings, I go to my display, I then go to the HDR like calibration thing, I calibrate it, and then you launch the game, and then you're able to configure HDR within the game itself, which I've already done a video about this, which you can go watch if you want a bit more, I guess, like further detail, but there's nothing really else when it comes to HDR on Linux under this. It's pretty simple to enable, I would say, at this rate. Now, one question that I do get a lot is the Wayland Wine driver better than Xwayland? And in most cases, yes, it is a lot better when it comes to either it be the frame timing, the FPS itself, like the minimum is a lot better, or when it comes to things like the RAM usage is a lot more lower, which I'll show very soon, like right now. So the first we did test a bunch of different games here, like Batman Arkham Knight, Black Myth Wukong, Cyberpunk 2077, Forza Horizon 5, and Fragpunk. So we do open these up here and we can look in further detail because one of the issues that I'll talk about soon is I wasn't able to do FPS graphs with Mango HUD because of the shortcuts not working with Mango HUD currently when you try to use the Wine Wayland driver. And that's what I mean when it comes to the driver being experimental, because a lot of developers haven't implemented those types of features yet. But as we can see here with Batman Arkham Knight, it's pretty clear to see that Wayland is doing a better job when it comes to the minimum side of things. A lot better, an extra 10 FPS when it comes to the min. But when it comes to the maximum, of course, Xwayland seems to win, or slash X11 seems to win in that area. And then when it comes to the average, also Xwayland slash X11 seems to win in that area. Now, there could be margin of error, but it does seem that it is doing a pretty good or more better job than the Wayland Wine driver. Now, when it comes to Black Myth Wukong, the FPS is basically the exact same, I would say. The minimum, yeah, it's like literally 1 FPS difference. So I would say that when it comes to this game, and this is where sometimes you'll just not see a difference, and that's perfectly fine. If you're already getting good performance, then it's not really a problem. But yeah, in this case, they're the exact same. And this is the same case with Cyberpunk 2077, at least for me. I did not see a difference when it came to Xwayland versus Wayland performance when doing the Cyberpunk benchmark. And when it comes to Forza Horizon 5, Wayland does seem to win in that area. We can see that Wayland achieved a decent amount more FPS. I'm pretty sure that's either it would have to be the average FPS if I had to guess. But we can see here with the average and min and max on the, I think this is the CPU, because it has like 3 different things, like it's got GPU, CPU. So for Forza Horizon 5, it seems to be like it's beating Xwayland, but when it comes to when you actually look at it in further detail, it depends on CPU or GPU side of things. Don't know why Forza really does that. Someone can explain to me in the comments why it does that. But it's a bit of a mixed bag with which one is really better. It's probably margin of error, but when it comes to the actual achieved FPS, Wayland is winning in that regard. And then when it comes to Fragpunk, Wayland does seem to win in that area also, either when it comes to the average or the minimum or the maximum. Of course, like the maximum, it's a decent amount more. The average, it's a little bit more. And when it comes to the minimum, yeah, it's like 1 FPS difference. So I would say there's no real big downside when it comes to moving to the Wine Wayland driver, and since it's experimental, it's not finished either. So in the future, the Wine Wayland driver is going to continue to improve and get better, and at some point, it will just be a good alternative. And right now, it's already a pretty damn good alternative if you're someone who has, you know, necessarily the right monitor, because I know there's some issues with scaling currently on monitors that are like 1440p or 4K. And then when it comes to the power usage, this game is the finals, by the way. The power usage with Xwayland versus Wayland is a bit interesting. At least when I tested it, it seems like the finals was taking more of my GPU when running under the Wine Wayland driver. I don't know if there's a fluke or not. I didn't change anything. So when it comes to, yeah, you can see here, it's using more GPU usage. It is, of course, a bit more hotter, and it's using just more of the core clock, and it's using more power, which I guess is good if you are trying to play like an FPS game, for example. You're trying to push out as much frames as possible. And then when it comes to the RAM and VRAM on the finals, it seemed that, you know, the RAM was lower, like I've seen with other reports when it comes to Xwayland versus Wayland. As you can see, X11 here, using 10.5. Wayland's using 9.6. And then when it comes to the VRAM, there is not much of a difference that gets changed here. And then also, I did forget that I didn't screen record this properly. I didn't show the, I think that's the swap memory here. It was like the exact same. So no real difference with the swap, but there is a difference with the actual RAM itself, which is pretty good if you are running, let's say, something with 8 GB of RAM. It would probably be really good when it comes to running the Wine Wayland driver. Now, when it came to what issues did I have with the Wine Wayland driver so far, well, when it comes to using Mango HUD, keybinds do not work. When it comes to if you want to capture, let's say, the FPS log of a game, you can't do that. And supposedly this was already fixed like 2 years ago, but I think the fix was actually made for Xwayland games on a Wayland session, was the actual merge request that was done within Mango HUD, not an actual merge request to support the Wine Wayland driver properly, because I've tried it many times and it doesn't seem to work. So if someone does know how to fix that, definitely comment down below of how if there's something that I've done wrong. I don't think I've done something wrong when it comes to configuring it, but there might be a solution. And then some of the other issues that I've heard about, which I've already mentioned, is the scaling. So there's a scaling issue right now with Wine Wayland. Supposedly this was already a solved thing also, but it seems that people are having issues when it comes to a game getting scaled properly to a monitor that's like 1440p or 4K. And then the last one that is still relevant today that I did mention a while ago when it came to Wine Wayland was the CEF problem with different game launches not displaying correctly because they use the CEF framework, which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically just Chromium, and Chromium doesn't support something correctly with the Wine Wayland driver, so the application can't display properly, and it's just a blank, basically, window what you're looking at. So as you can see here, we have the Proton Wine Wayland driver enabled on Epic Games through Lutris, and as you can see, it's just a blank window. And I don't know when this is going to be fixed, if it's a upstream issue with CEF itself, or if the Wine team or Codeweaver's team is able to fix this, or someone in the Linux community is able to fix this problem on like the client driver side. Now, when it comes to that CEF problem, there is a kind of solution that you can use to see if it does solve the problem, which is this argument right here. So if we want to use this in something like Lutris, we would configure on the games, like Epic Games, for example. We click on this little arrow here, go to configure, go to game option, and we add it as an argument here, with a space, of course, and then hit save. Now for me, this doesn't solve the problem. I think it is supposed to not use the GPU, it's supposed to use your CPU, and that solves the problem, but it doesn't seem to fix the issue for me. When I try launching Epic Games, it's still a blank page, so your mileage may vary, I would say. Now, when it comes to some of the other issues that I did have before when using the Wine Wayland driver, like for example, the cursor not looking correctly with the system cursor that you're using on your desktop, well now that isn't a problem. As you can see, my cursor is actually being showed properly. And then when it comes to the app icons for those game launchers or games that you're launching, you can see now that, whoa, it has the right icon. Awesome. And then when it comes to resizing, you can still see that white border that goes all the way around. I don't think that is going to be fixed anytime soon, if ever. That's just how EA, for example, under Wine just maximizes. And then the other issue that I remember having is the minimize issue, where if I click the minimize button, it would freeze the entire application. Well, now when I minimize the application, as you can see, it's created this little black window. Very, very interesting. So they still have to work on when it comes to that problem, and I guess the maximize thing, but the maximize thing probably isn't going to be solved anytime soon. And then when it comes to the minimize thing, I do know that this has already been reported under the Wine Bugzilla website. So overall, I think when it comes to the progress of the Wine Wayland driver, it is coming along very nicely. There has been a lot of fixes, a lot of patches for all types of different games, or when it comes to game launcher fixes, there has been some. Like I said, I just showed before, there is still some issues. When it comes to like RAM usage, as you probably already know, RAM usage is lower when you are not running something through a translation layer with the X11 server. But there is still issues to figure out, and it's why the Wayland driver is not enabled by default under Wine/Proton yet. Those things need to be figured out before Codeweavers can enable it, and then Proton or Valve can think that it's ready also for normal Proton, so then users can just use it and there'll be no issues whatsoever, really. So, of course, I would like to know your experiences with the Wine Wayland driver currently. What issues have you had when using it? And if you guys did enjoy this video, definitely give it a like, definitely subscribe to the channel. And I also, if you've made it this far, I want to thank all of my viewers and subscribers, because we are at like, what, 14,100 subscribers right now, which is pretty damn awesome. It is pretty crazy to build a, a YouTube channel channel and a YouTube community for this long now. I think it's been around 3 years now since I started this channel, and probably the second year when I started to take it a bit more seriously when it came to creating videos on the channel, mostly because I became a partner with YouTube. So it's been really nice that we're really close to also 15,000 subscribers, but 14,000 is still a huge mark, I would say, for anyone like me who hasn't really had much success when it comes to running a YouTube channel, etc. So thank you all for that, and thank you to my supporters. I'll share a text across the screen. They give me money every single damn month. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.